Tonight, Arizona Governor Jan Brewer has a special birthday present for President Obama. But first, Senator John McCain uncut and on the record. Senator, nice to see you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you for coming and visit my office again.
I always like coming here. Well, we had hoped, whether you're for the stimulus program of February '09 or against it, everyone still hoped, or at least should have hoped, that it would succeed. You and Senator Coburn, though, have come out with a report indicating some rather disappointing numbers. You say it's riddled full of waste.
Well, it's riddled full of programs ranging from exotic ants, ANTS, to programs such as putting in windows in a closed facility owned by the Forest Service. I mean, it's just obviously money that has been spent which does not create jobs. But to sum it all up, when we passed the stimulus package, the guarantee was that unemployment would be at 8%. It's at 9.5, as we know, and some think it's going to go higher.
Well, that was Secretary of Treasury Geithner said this morning to George Stephanopoulos that, be warned, we don't expect it to go down, meaning the federal government.
Meaning, of course, the stimulus package has been a great success in every way except reducing unemployment, which was the stated purpose of it. It's just, it has added $1.1 trillion to the debt. Again, they're mortgaging our children's futures. They've just thrown money out there. And I think it's been a serious mistake and has penetrated in the minds of the American people who are very angry about it. Town hall meetings I have, it comes up all the time.
Now, I should say that Secretary Geithner said it's not going to go down, the unemployment in the near future, next couple of months. He doesn't mean it's never going to go down. But he wrote an op-ed today which says, today in the New York Times, welcome to the recovery. Are we recovering? I mean, he's got a lot of praise. He says exports are booming. Private job growth has returned. Auto industry is coming back. I don't understand the unemployment rate, and I don't understand why it's still, we expect continued bad numbers for a short time, but are we on the road to recovery?
I'd love for Secretary Geithner and President Obama to come out to Arizona and go to the town hall meetings that I've been holding where people can't get jobs, they've been out of work, 40-some% of the homes are underwater, small businesses can't get lines of credit. Maybe Secretary Geithner, I say with respect, his friends on Wall Street are doing pretty well, but on Main Street in Arizona, they're not doing very well at all. And so maybe in his view there is some success here, but it really has not penetrated to Arizona.
When I talk to small business owners, one of the complaints that I'm hearing now is that to the extent that they see some indicators that are favorable, is that they are unable to make any business decisions themselves because they don't know where we're going. They don't know what the federal government's going to do, and that banks won't lend them money because banks also don't know exactly what is coming down. So they all seem to be waiting for some decisions to be made. Why can't we give small businesses more certainty so that they can at least try to get their engines roaring?
Well, you just identified several problems. Small business access to credit, because it's the community banks, and the community banks are being told by the Fed to build up their reserves. That's one of the very big problems. Another problem, obviously, is the lack of certainty about what the future will hold after the passage of massive legislation, which regulations will be implemented for years. Example, $600 transactions now have to be reported by small businesses to the IRS. Now, what does that do to the small business person who every time he or she makes a $600 transaction, they have to fill out a report? And even big businesses, as you know, the Business Roundtable, the head of it complained bitterly about the anti-business environment out there. So there's great uncertainty. Many corporations are sitting on a whole lot of money, and yet they are not investing because they really are uncertain. But one thing they're certain about, that this is an anti-business administration.
In what way?
Well, in the regulations, the stimulus package, the health care reform, which is going to put enormous burdens, the Obamacare, which is going to put enormous burdens on small businesses particularly, and other Americans. And again, the uncertainty as to what the future will be for them as far as their compliance with laws and regulations that this administration and Nancy Pelosi and Harry Reid have sponsored.
How do I know what to believe, though? I hear the president say, you know, we've saved X millions of jobs, and it could be so much worse. And I'm thinking, oh, that's great, because, you know, that would really be rotten if we lost those jobs. You know, we're really lucky we saved them. On the other hand, I don't know if I'm just being sort of, you know, bamboozled, because how do you measure a saved job or not? You know, how do I know who to believe?
The President of the United States and his chief economic advisor said, if we pass the stimulus package, unemployment will be a maximum of 8%. Now, you can talk about jobs saved or created or whatever it is. Unemployment is still at an unacceptable level and far higher than they guaranteed the American people it would be if we passed the stimulus package. So I'm not sure we have to even discuss it more. What they said would happen did not happen.
Well, you know, I guess the other thing that sort of distresses me is that Larry Summers said one of the president's chief economic advisors said in December that the recession's over. We've heard, you know, the promise on the unemployment rate, and of course the op-ed, you know, the op-ed piece with the, you know, welcome to the recovery. That certainly seems like, you know, that's great news. Welcome to the recovery, and yet the unemployment rate simply is grim. And I think that the reason why Secretary Geithner went out this morning and said that is to warn us about the unemployment rate numbers, which will come out this week.
Most business people that I talk to and investors say that we are in a recovery, a very slow one, and that unemployment will remain high for a long period of time. Now the question is does this accumulation of massive debt, now 13 trillion, 1.4 trillion just this year, does that begin to crowd out private investment and cause a really deadening effect to the economic recovery? Now you hear estimates ranging from a double dip kind of situation or a slow and gradual recovery. I don't know any economist that says that this recovery is going to be robust. All
right, now let me turn to the question of immigration, illegal immigration, and there's been a lot of fuss about numbers. I'm also trying to figure out the numbers. One report today in the Wall Street Journal says that in the first 9 months of this year, there were 279,000 non-citizens deported, which is 10% more than the Bush administration. As to people who are designated criminal aliens, there are 60% more deported in a comparable period of time in the Obama administration than the Bush 43 administration. So, and then we hear the unemployment, we hear the crime rate rather in Arizona is being exaggerated. What's the story? How do we look at these numbers?
The story is that there have been some improvements, but those improvements have not kept up with the escalation of violence on the other side of the border. We just shut down our consulate in Juarez. We just have had to set up signs in the southern part of my state, warning, you're in a human smuggling and drug smuggling area. We've had the police chief of Nogales, Arizona, being threatened, saying his police force is going to be murdered if they interfere with the drug cartels. 23,000 Mexican citizens have been murdered. 4 journalists were just kidnapped because they reported that people were taken out of prison to go murder people. I mean, the violence level is such that it poses a national security threat to the United States of America, and that's a fact. So are they doing better in some areas? Yes. Is the violence level and the national security threat, in my view, and backed up, I think, by numbers and statistics, dramatically escalated? Yes, and we must get our border secure.
It seems to me if I were living down that area, even if the crime rate were going down, I do know there's a civil war of some sort going on in Mexico, that even if the threat never materialized, I would be worried. I think you know, that would bother me.
Greta, you've been down on the border. I'm sorry that the President of the United States has not come down to the border. Maybe on his next trip to Nevada, he could stop by. And the fact is that people do not feel safe in their homes in the southern part of my state. They are worried. They've had home invasions. They're even worried about dropping their kids off at the bus stop. Why should the government have to put up warning signs to people in the United States of America that they're in a dangerous area? We can get the border secure. John Kyle and I have a 10-point plan to do so. I was recently in Israel. They have secured their borders with people, with surveillance, and with fences. And we can get this done. But for the President of the United States to hold securing the border hostage to comprehensive immigration reform is, in my view, more of a political act than it is a practical one. Look, this is all about now the Democrats and the President and Harry Reid and Nancy Pelosi trying to sew up the Hispanic vote in 2012 and beyond. Otherwise, they would be taking far more vigorous action to get the border secured.
Senator, thanks, sir.
Thank you for having me on.